Hi, it's Mary Dacey. Again, I apologize. I haven't been here for a while, but people in my community understand that. Last time we left off, I was talking about having created the DNR, signing the papers, making sure everybody had their copies. And I also shared that I was still being sent for tests because I want to be made as comfortable as possible, but people like anesthesiologists have to agree to put you under if you want a procedure. And unless I have these certain tests, they may not want to do that. So right now I have completed 4 more, and as of yesterday, visiting with the cardiologist, he informs me that the lupus and Sjogren's have damaged my heart, and now he wants me on a 30-day heart monitor to decide if he wants to have a pacemaker implanted. I haven't scheduled that, but the thing that I find interesting, and I don't know if I've mentioned this before, but I know I've put it in writing on my autoimmune page that people ask me questions on, about my 50-year journey through autoimmune. It occurred to me in the last week as I was preparing for the upcoming doctor's appointments. I've gotten to the point now where I have created a binder for each disease or disorder that I'm diagnosed with, for 2 reasons. One, I can't remember between all the different ones, and it's become such an incredible resource for me in clearing a lot of things up. So I just thought I'd pull this over so you can see. This weighs several pounds. I can barely carry it, so my husband comes to all my appointments anyway, so he carries it. And I have them marked by different things. The latest one being cardiology, because that is the latest issue that I'm dealing with, because of all the autoimmune diseases I've had. And what I discovered as I'm going through these, and I'm constantly researching more and having things printed out, and then I go through them and I underline the points that I want to bring up to the doctor, and I put them in the appropriate binder. And for some reason, it occurred to me just in the last week, not one doctor that I have seen in my entire life has sat me down and discussed the disease what it is, what it does, how it affects you, and what treatments are available, and what the side effects of those treatments are. And all of this information I have pulled up on my own through research and joining so many forums and gaining insight and information from others. So now, besides my Mary's Autoimmune page, if you are in any proximity to my home in Northwest Indiana, I am starting Mary's Autoimmune group, which I am offering my home for people to gather and to tell their stories and offer suggestions that will help others and have hopefully also others will give something back that will be instrumental in helping everybody who comes. The more inclusive, the more information, and so on. So because of the cardiac issues, I have been going through all my different diseases and disorders and have found out that the Sjogren's and the lupus not only affect certain areas, and lupus in particular is very hard on every organ in your body. But both of these issues, so Sjogren's and lupus, attack your kidneys. So I've also shared in the past that it is one of the first symptoms that may show up is the effects to your bladder. And that I had gone to a urologist and tried a multitude of medications, and some worked for a little bit and others, one of the side effects was my blood pressure went sky high immediately, so I was put on medication to counteract other medication. But I've noticed the last time and this time that I was preparing to go for my injections, you have a number of tests, and both last time and this time I've been diagnosed with bacterial infections, which I never had before. And one of my other doctors, who is now no longer in that practice, he moved, so now I have another one. It was the pain doctor, had ordered, I believe, MRIs of my lower back up to my neck, and then the new pain doctor ordered a new CAT scan of my neck because I am having an issue where my entire sacrum goes numb. But one of the things that was pointed out in the results of the MRI is that now I have kidney stones, which I find out now is also part of lupus and Sjogren's. So these diseases that are impacting every organ, my kidneys, heart, my brain, digestion, my lungs now, and all the other impacts from the nervous system disorders, where my temperature is, I'm freezing 1 second and the next second I am dripping with sweat. The cardiologist was surprised that I was not on any medication to counteract the symptoms of lupus or Sjogren's. And I had explained before, but I'm sure these people don't remember you from one time to the next, how the only medication for Sjogren's is Plaquenil. Hydrochloroquine, I believe, is the generic. And that is the only medication that the doctors I've gone to have heard of that is on the market to treat Sjogren's, and it is the same medication you give to malaria patients. And I believe they're the only two people that are prescribed this particular medication, and how it does have negative side effects to your eyes. And I was taken off of it after only being on the medication 2.5 years, where other people have had no symptoms of anything negative to their body till after they've been on it for 10 years. But it has greatly did irreparable damage to my eyes. And he thinks that possibly, the cardiologist, that one of the medications I'm on for the chronic fatigue is also contributing to the heart damage. So again, these are things that, most of these things I have learned on my own, from my own research and communication with other people dealing with things. But this is the first time that I've heard that one of the medications was quite possibly doing damage to my heart. Usually the medications, they tell you have a choice of either trashing your liver or your stomach. And this is the first time I've heard about the heart. I have had issues with my brain from medications. And with everything that's wrong with me, I have been trying to get off of the medications because none of them are really doing anything. I'm just simply rapidly progressing. But when I first started my vlogs in August, one of the things I said, I was doing it because I had just turned 66, and I felt for the last couple years I was living on borrowed time. But for some reason I had more energy at that time than I had had for the 6 previous years combined. And the summer's over, and as we go into fall, my energy is getting worse by the day. I am sleeping later and later. And so I see myself backsliding. And now with the new issues, I'm sure that some event will be happening in the relatively near future. That's all I have to share. And going forward, I think all I'm going to have the energy for is sharing something new that I feel is contributive to the autoimmune community or caregivers. So please continue asking me questions. I enjoy hearing your responses very, very much. It's one of the very few forms of communication I have these days because I never leave home. And hopefully there will be people who are in the area and would like to come together and see that they have a community that understands, because a lot of us are pretty much removed from society in general. And it happens gradually over the years when you have nothing in your life but dealing with this illness. People don't want to hear about it. They don't want to be around you. And you get it. You don't really want to be around them either, because they don't understand you anymore. And there's nothing you have to share with them that would be of any relevance, because you're really not living in society anymore. It's really interesting to me that I do watch television, and there have been several programs that are dealing with a number of these things. And one of the shows I was watching, I don't know if I think it was the Resident. It was the same day that I had gone to the brand new pain doctor, and I was having issues with my arm, shoulder, my hand, and I had told him I was hypermobile, and he suggested that I may have Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is just another autoimmune connective-tissue-disorder, which a lot of these are. And that night on the Residence, I'm watching, and one of their patients was diagnosed with this. I always talk to people about like my other sense, and it happens so much that I feel like I know something ahead of time is relevant. And the other thing that I found interesting is my right hand, the back of the palm had been very dark, like a dark bruise. and the middle knuckle had been raised and red and swollen, in a lot of pain. And every doctor I went to in the last 3 months I had asked if they all talk about my arthritic conditions. And I would say, but what kind of arthritis do I have? Because I only hear about osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis, and nobody would tell me or could tell me what it was until I was researching this week about the different organs, and this exact disorder that I had to the T was listed under lupus as lupus arthritis. So for the multitudes of you out there who have never heard of the term lupus arthritis, like I have never heard of it, it explains that it will affect your joints, and you will get the dark discoloring, and your joint will swell up and get very hot and very red. And if you're wondering what it is, it's lupus arthritis. Just something that I learned again, but not from the doctor. And for those of you who have accused me in the past of self-diagnosing, and I've said I have had a clinical doctor diagnosis for everything that I talk about, I now take that back. This is the first time I'm coming out and telling you I was not told this by a doctor. I researched and found this myself, that's what this condition was. The rest of the doctors just would say arthritis, but they didn't know what kind. So yes, I did diagnose this one myself. I hope to have some more things to share that hopefully are relevant to people who have all these questions. If you know somebody like me who's suffering and feels so alone, please share. If you know caregivers that are dealing with something like taking care of a person, they're too busy to research what could be wrong with the person because they're doing all the work for two. Share it with the caregivers also. And that's all for now. And I hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.